Hi everybody, welcome back to what's it now, the fourth lesson actually. So we did 3 basic setting up lessons in this Maya to Houdini conversion course. Now I'm going to jump into a very simple particle example which will, I hope, demonstrate to you, as well as basic particle sourcing, setting timeline and frame per second. We'll try to jump into find out how a graph editor in Houdini works, how you can set and delete keyframes, and if time permits, or we may have to do in another video, we'll go into some of the global settings, how to create expressions and fields, adding gravity, maybe do some collisions as well, and and we'll try to add in some play blasting in Houdini. It's called flip booking. I'll show you how to do all of that. So let's jump back. So this was a scene file we were working with before. So I've created 3 pieces of geometry. This one basically I was just demonstrating the concept of, so Control B to maximize and H to home. Creating geometries, transforming them, merging them, and showing you how the display flag works. Okay, so let's just jump up. One of the nice things about Houdini is you can create really complex scenes, but then you can just hide them, and it's almost as if it's not there. And then when you want it back, you just turn it on again, all with a single click. Which is why I wanted to show you how to create multiple objects in one piece of geometry. Let's take our second geometry. Let's just zero this out, and we'll use this. We'll rename this to our particles geo. Okay, and for this one I'll just delete that for now. We might come back to that later. So in here, okay, so in Maya, let's just see how we would do it. Basically, let's just start again, shall we? Get rid of all of this, so we have a consistent setup. In Maya, it's very simple, and you know, part of its simplicity is why people get frustrated going the other way. Let's just create an emitter, and from that emitter, we'll convert that into a sphere, and just put that into a volume, and then turn the volume itself as a sphere. And hit play, and it emits particles. Let's change the timeline settings. Oop, let me stop. I hope that's recording okay in Cam Studio. Maybe a bit jittery. Let's just give ourselves some more. So in Maya, to extend the timeline, you just type it in there. I'll show you how to do that same thing in Houdini as well. Okay. So let's jump back into Houdini. So here's my particles geo. I want to spawn it off a sphere. Okay, so I'll delete this, hit tab, and put in the word sphere. Where did I go wrong? There it is. And now I have a sphere. I'll change that to a polygon, and you can see how it's kind of tessellated. I'll add in more faces to smooth it out. Nice smooth sphere. Again, I'm in camera mode, so I don't need to hit spacebar or anything like that. Now, to spawn particles off of this, let's just show you in Maya how if I wanted to spawn particles of that, I just go in particles and emit from object, and then that would, underneath my sphere, create an emitter, and there is the associated particle with that. And if I hit play, rewind and play, I'll get particles coming off of there. Okay? In Houdini, you can, if you want to, have your sphere selected and create source particles from there. I'm not going to do it that way. I actually want to show you how to construct it, because there's a lot of value in knowing how to construct it, because then you can deconstruct it and change it. If you're relying on pushing buttons, you know, you'll get around, but you won't have nearly as much flexibility. So I'm going to right click in here, and I'm going to type in pop network. So that's the particle operator network. And I'll drop it over here. And you see if it has 4 input nodes, okay? If you middle mouse over each of those, it will tell you what they are. In this case, it just says you can plug 4 things into this. Let's talk about, so if you want to oversample in particles in Houdini, all the controls are up here. You can set your sampling rates up here. You can select the maximum number of particles in there. So a value of 0 means particles can always be birthed. You can set your start time, so if I don't want it to start until frame 24, I'd type it in there. You can type a pre-roll, which is very cool. It's how much before the time that you choose to start do you want the particles to have pre-rolled. You can plug in input geometries. You'll see SOP1, surface operator 1, is already blocked. It's ghosted because I already plugged something. If I was to plug something in there, then SOP2 is ghosted out. If I want to break that, I think you just click on that and you can delete it. So I put my display flag on here and hit play. And hit play is the up arrow key in Houdini, which is very cool. So you're going to hit play, hit up arrow, and hit up arrow again to stop. Hit control up to go back to the beginning. Okay, so it's up arrow to play and stop, and play and stop again, and control up to go back, which is a very fast way to work. You'll see I've got an error. If I middle mouse, so if I middle mouse over any node in Houdini, it will bring me up a list of properties. So this middle mousing over the sphere tells me I've got 252 points, 500 polygons, etc. If I middle mouse, put my display flag on here and middle mouse, I get a an error or a warning saying the node cook pop was not found or was the wrong type of operation. Okay, so currently we are on object particles geo. So obviously we're in object particles geo. It's just what I named it. And if I want now to adjust this particle operator, I'll double click and go inside of here. Now I'm in object particles geo / popnet1, and you notice that little display next to popnet1 has changed shapes to tell me I'm now in a particle operator. So now if I tab, I get different set of menus. But if I was to tab in a geometry context, I get geometry related menus. If I go into my particle context and hit tab, I get everything related to particles in here. Okay, so I'm just going to source some particles. I'm going to pause the video so Cam Studio does not lock me out and lose all my work. So there's 2 ways to source. One is to do a location and drop that there. The other one is to do a source. Okay, I'm just going to do a location just to show you some particles coming out. Okay, they're obviously not coming off of that sphere, which is what we want. If I jump to source, it goes into error mode. So let's click on source and find out why we have the error. And you can middle mouse and it says cannot obtain the geometry of a specified source. So in here where it says source, it has use parameter values. If I click on this, I can use my first context geometry and it brings in the sphere, namely the sphere is going to the first context. If I plug that into a third context and delete that and go back, it won't work, so I could say use the third context. The point is there's going to be lots of these nodes that you're going to plug in which can use different context values. Just wire that back in because I don't want you to wonder why I'm using a third one. Jump back in here, change that back to first. Now if I hit play, I get particles appearing on the surface. You'll notice, let's zoom in a bit, I hope this is being recorded nicely. If I step it through one frame at a time, you'll see they're all appearing on vertices of the sphere in an ordered fashion. That's because under emission type I have points ordered. If you click on that, you can have all of these different ways to spawn your particles. I'm going to choose surfaces random. I'm going to go back and it's spawning it off a surface. Okay, So that's how you spawn them. Now they don't have any velocities on them at the moment. If I want to add an initial velocity, I will go under attributes. Under here it says use inherited velocity. So if I did have velocity on this thing, this would inherit the velocity to a coefficient of 1. I'm going to choose set initial velocity. You can do add to if you want to. I don't have any initial velocity, so nothing to add it to. I'm just going to do set and hit play, and I have particles flying outwards. Okay. If I want to play that in real time, just go down here, hit this real time key, so that will play everything in real time now, which is better for calculations. I hope this is recording okay on Cam Studio, but you can see how I've spawned particles. I've showed you how to change the sampling rate. That was up here in the actual PopNet itself under standard. You can oversample in here, and I showed you 2 ways. So that one will spawn it from there. Do you know what? I'm going to even just take that 3 units up, say. I'm going to create a merge node, bring, I think it's called a join, is it? So what do we call it in here? It's called managers. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Collect. It's called a collect node. So again, it's not called merge in this context, but I can plug them both into here. Put my finger there, and then you'll see at the top is my location one, and underneath is my source one, and I use a collect node to gather them both together. So I'm going to pause the video there before Cam Studio locks me out. Hopefully in the next lesson we'll come back and we'll start adding fields and putting keyframes in. I'll show you how to change the emission rates and all of those kind of things. Thanks for watching. Please share the video, tell everyone about it who might be interested, and we'll see you in part 2 part B. Okay, thank you very much. See you next time. Thank you. Bye.